And welcome back, STS, Sharp and Spear podcast. On with Sabrina Guler, a second-time appearance because she was amazing as our very first guest on Sharp and Spear podcast. And I've been trying to get this scheduled to get her back on, and here we are now. So we are going to knock this out of the park, and we are going to talk about a lot of cool things. So let's just start with Sabrina. Thanks for being on. It's great to see you again.
I'm so excited to be back. We always have such good conversation.
We do. And that's why we had to finally hit the record button, because we were kind of, we were firing down range already before we even got started. So, but it is great to have you back on here. If you guys go back to the very first episode, the Sharp Spirit podcast, you can listen to that episode. It was a phenomenal episode. I recommend you do it. We're not going to spend a lot of time catching up from that because we don't need to, because we got a lot more things to hit today. But Sabrina, super high view, give them the who you are in 20, 30 seconds. You know how to do this. And then we're going to get into the conversation.
Absolutely. By the way, it's so funny because Richard and I, we have no idea what we're going to talk about today. So I'm so curious to know what you'll title this later on. It's so good. We're gonna freestyle. But yeah, I like to say I'm an entrepreneur first. I am also a self-published author, so that's brand new. Richard's looking at me like, oh, we didn't get to talk about that. And yeah, I help entrepreneurs find themselves and grow their businesses. That's really my bread and butter.
That's awesome. Now, I'm hitting the brakes here. You finished your book? You wrote your book? You finished it?
Okay, so we're talking about something different. So I published. I've always been someone that loves to use my intuition and tools in business. So I created a card deck for people who want to use their intuition and learn how to use motivation and use like affirmations in their daily practices. So with motivational cards and card decks, you actually need to publish them like a book with like a registered ISBN. So this was a project that I had since June, and it did so well as a Facebook ad that I actually created a physical product out of it. And I just pre-launched it earlier this week. So the book that you're thinking about is like a book, which I plan on doing, in 12 to 18 months. But I do have my first mini self-published piece of work.
Well, congratulations on that. That is awesome. That is very cool. Now, a couple weeks ago, was it 3 weeks ago maybe? I'm thinking I was going to reach out to you because I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 75 hard, if you know what that is, the whole workout thing and stuff. But you got to do hard things. And another guest of mine, we were talking, I was on her show, then she was on my show. I said, hey, I think I'm going to do 75 hard. I got the tour. And she goes, well, that's not going to work. I go, why not? She goes, you already do that stuff. There's nothing hard about it for you. I go, well, she goes, what about that next book of yours? Why don't you do 1,000 words a day for this time? And she goes, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing 1,500 words a day to finish my book and in 75 hard, right? She's a big fitness person, whatever. I'm like, yeah, that'd be harder. And then I'm thinking, you know who I'm going to call? I'm going to call up Sabrina, and I'm going to make her join me in 75 hard to write this book. I was like so close to saying, but then I'm like, can I do it? Because I got all this other stuff going on. I'm like,
you know what? We'll do this live. You know what? I think I'm going to do it with you. We're going to just decide together here on this part. I think I'm going to do it with you because I need something to kind of push me to really write. And I will say, not to go on a tangent here, but 75 hard, I was talking about this with some really successful 8-figure entrepreneurial friends of mine who I believe that you can have a schedule, you can have a routine, but your rhythm, right? Like for instance, 75 hard for you, the traditional one, you already do that. You already have that background. You already know how to like work with yourself. So it's interesting to take a framework like that and apply it to something where you can hold yourself accountable, but also in a way that has a deeper meaning for you. So for example, something that I started recently, I'm not going to call it 75 hard, but and I don't even have an end date, but I'm doing it every day. I've been doing it every day, but it's to really incorporate self-reflection and connecting with myself every single day to include some kind of creativity in my life. So it's interesting because you're asking, we're talking about doing 1,000 words a day, and that is a form of creativity, right? It's a form of connecting with yourself. Writing is very therapeutic.
And I think for you, Sabrina, because this is kind of your story in your book, so it's in you. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like you got to go research. It's like you have to spend all this time researching. You have something that just needs to get out on paper. So for you, it's not going to be easy, but whatever the number per day is, you might want to do a 1,000-page book. You might want to do a 50,000-page, word, not page. That'd be a little much. But if you want to get into something like that, you just figure out the numbers, obviously. But I think it's really good. And what time of day are you doing that little bit of routine there? Just for context.
I do the best creativity in the mornings, like 8 to noon is like my bread and butter. But I've been kind of, as long as I get it done every day, I'm okay with it. So that's kind of been my rhythm.
Good. Yeah, I'm very morning methodical, right? 4 a.m. I got the whole thing. I got a whole thing for those first few hours working out, everything else, Bible study, the whole thing, my prayer time and all that's really good. So I haven't missed a day of that in over 8 years.
So actually, yeah, so that's basically what I'm doing. I've been doing prayer every day and I've been really connecting. And it's funny because a friend of mine, he writes some amazing work. And I'm like, how do you find the time to do all this? And he's like, Sabrina, it doesn't even come from like me logically. It just comes from me connecting with myself, doing prayer, and kind of just like making sure that I don't forget myself throughout the day. Because some of the most creative things that you can do as an entrepreneur, I don't care what business you are. You own a construction business, a plumbing business, I don't care what business you're in. Your business needs you in that state at least once a week. Like preferably once a day, but at least once a week, because that's how you're growing your business. That's how you're thinking about things outside of the box. And so that was my intention, like going into this.
Yeah, that's great. I was on a podcast yesterday speaking about exactly that. This time for creativity, the time to step outside, to focus on vision, to give yourself a day, a half a day where you're just removed from the business and you're creating, even for your business. Like, what's the next vision? We talk about strategic vision. It's a future cast 18 to 24 months ahead, but that's like tomorrow. So you complete it, then what do you got to do? What's next? You got to do it again. You got to write the new one, right? So you're always writing new vision, but you need that time for that creativity because vision takes creativity. It's just not, it's not logic, it's creativity.
It's so interesting. So for those listening, and I shared this with my group the other night. So I had a journal. I do some journaling. I had a journal that I started it was in May of 2024. So I don't know, 7-8 months ago. And I always set, if you don't know what vision you're creating, I always like to tell people to set an intention, because vision is usually fostered through some kind of a lens. It could be growth. It could be awareness. It could be creativity. There's something that's like backing it up. And the thing is, this with your vision planning and your business, you can't do everything at the same time. It's just nearly impossible. And so, especially entrepreneurs, we are methodical. We calculate risk in certain ways, but we're not 9-to-5 agenda people. Like there's always a little bit of your day that's a little flowy or, it gets taken from you, right? With clients, whatever that is. So it's the same thing with vision, because a lot of people ask me, well, for you and I, it comes so easy. That's why we're coaches. That's why we do these things. It's like, I can whip up a vision for you, in 20 minutes. But when people don't know how to create one, I like to say, what's your intention? So I had a journal in May that I just got. And the first thing I always do, the first page, like the heart on the back of the hardcover, I always write my words of intention. So it was funny because in May, I knew that big change was coming. I don't know what it was. I was kind of sick of like whatever I was in. For those listening, I took a step back from a huge business, and I knew it was time for me to take a step back. So in my journal, I had no idea what my vision was. I had no idea what I was going to create. I'm now, I just told you, I published a book. I have so many other things happening. I had no idea about this, guys. But the first thing that I wrote in the journal was, I have no idea what is going to happen. I just know that by the end of this journal, I'm going to be a completely different person, because I felt it, I felt it. And so my intention for that vision work for my journal, for however long it took for me to finish it, was to really step into whatever I was being called to change, because you're always being called to change something. I don't care. People are like, well, I don't know what needs to change. You do know what needs to change. It's just maybe not what you want to hear that needs to change, or maybe it's not what you thought that you needed to change, but And so it's funny because I just finished that journal 3 weeks ago, and the whole journal is like all these crazy life changes. So I got the journal, then I left my business, then I started a new business, then you and I met in somewhere between there, and there was so much creativity that channeled through me. And not only am I happier, not only am I so happy that everything changed, but it just came from that simple intention saying, I don't know where I'm going, but I just want to change.
Yeah, that was me in 9. Losing everything, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I didn't want to do what I was doing, even though it was over. I wasn't going to try to resurrect it. And I haven't built a water feature or done a sculpture in 15 years because I wanted to do something completely different. I wanted to change. I changed everything. I realized that my identity was stuck in that business and everything else. I never wanted to be owned like that again. I don't want to be known by what I do. I want to be known for who I am.
Ooh, that's good.
I mean?
That's a juicy mic drop. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a big epiphany. It really was. Man, I literally burned all my uniforms and everything. I'm like, again, maybe not the best way to go about things when everything's collapsing around you, but
I don't think there's any other way.
Yeah, well, good. That's why we get along. Okay. But it took time. It took a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of introspection and everything else, but it really kind of fell down, got going, and finally picked up that speed where you could, okay, now I know where I'm at. I know who I am. I understand because I was that other person for 20 years, So, I mean, there's a lot to that, man. I really had to, I am not, if someone hasn't seen me in 15 years, they won't even like, who are you? I mean, Beryl was having kids. Like, someone see me in 20 years, they're like, wait, married, 6 children? There's no way. You? That would be like, you're doing what now? So it's
But what? Take a minute and really think about it. First of all, I don't think it takes a long time to change. I think the second that you made that decision, it was like waterfall explosion.
It was. I got out of bed, had the epiphany, went in the office and said, we're done today. I shut it all down. It was that fast. I mean, I am a little unusual. I did give a few extra days for my guys in the field to wrap up the jobs so we could get paid. But I was like, we're done. I said, it's over. It's just over. We're doing something else.
And, even you can take, so both of our examples are massive, right? Like I left a team of 80. I mean, mine was actually very similar to yours. That's why I'm laughing because I related to it. It was also very difficult. And it was also beautiful in hindsight because everything just made perfect sense. But it also happens on micro levels. I've had, I'll just be, we're being candid here online. I have a coaching program right now and I love my clients and I love the concept of what I'm building. But there's something about it that needs to change, right? And so I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, we build something and then we're like, but we thought it was supposed to be like this and we thought it was going to produce this and we thought it meant this and that's cool. We had hopes and things kind of shifted. And I also think even to set that intention, one of mine now is love my company name, love the mission, love the opportunities that it's attracted. But I'd like my revenue structure to change a little bit. I know you've been focusing on profitability these days. And the fact that I can say that out loud, even just on this podcast, the fact that I'd say, hey, I want my revenue structure to change and I am open to, pushing my ego aside. We talked a lot about that last time, right. To invite that change in and also to do things a little differently that might be scary or might be different. Or maybe something I thought was a stupid idea 6 months ago, because that's happened to me a lot in entrepreneurship. You bash something and then a year later you're like, oh my God, I realized that was probably a really good idea. So it also happened. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've spent time in the trenches and realized that one mentor told me something that was actually right. But yeah, it could also happen on a micro level. So I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that's really good insight. It is so true. I think kind of what you're saying, you really have to embrace that ability to pivot and self-examine. We all, and if you're getting into something new, like a coaching arena, right? It's very popular now. There's a lot. There wasn't any 30 years ago, when I'm doing stuff, there was none of this, but you're going to go through iterations. It's just all businesses do. If you think you can just start with this and stay that for 10 or 20 years, it just doesn't happen. It might not be cataclysmic iterate, but it's like you're going to do things that are going to be different, right? You're going to have to pivot and adjust, whether that's from customer feedback, supply chain issues, it could be a million things, right? You have to understand that flexibility is what makes an entrepreneur. And the self-awareness, I think we talked about that in our last episode too, that self-awareness is a key character trait of the successful entrepreneurs, because we understand that ability to move. We also understand ourselves pretty well. And at the same time, we're also the problem. It's a mixed bag of stuff.
Well, what's interesting? What came to mind when you said that? We're always changing too. So I don't know why it's a surprise that the business changes. It's like, I'm not the same person I was on our first podcast episode that we did 2 months ago.
It's so true. And it's important because I think what you're doing, like even from your coaching standpoint, what we're talking about here is that I do look back and go, wow, and time for me moves so quickly that it's Monday, Friday. That's my week. I don't know what kind of, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's all of a sudden it's Friday. So much happens so fast. I have to be adapting. And all of a sudden you do that quick glance back, like, man, it's been 2 months. Think about you were on like 2 months ago. It's like, that's 2 months. What the heck? You think about what have we done? You've done a lot of stuff. I'm doing different things, right? I'm looking at this and we're trying to get things adapted. I made some big changes, just like you in the last couple of months. We have to shift things because we understand that direction is kind of a guide. You know what I mean? There's kind of guide rails, but there's a lot of road in between, right, that we can drive on.
That's kind of, yeah, that's a great way of putting it. That's kind of what I meant by like intention. It's like, here's the container, but how you fill it, it can really change. And I think I'd actually love your opinion on this because I think it's fascinating. And I think a lot of people toggle between this. What is your opinion about having one offer in a business, one funnel that drives like 60 to 80% of your business revenue? Because a lot of people teach that, a lot of people, especially in the online marketing world. But I think, yeah, what's your opinion on that? Because I think if we're just kind of applying this to like profitability and revenue, you could say I want more money, right, in your business. But how does one start to think about it in a way that allows them to start on that road that you're talking about?
Right. I think what you want to do, you're talking basically, let's sum it this way. You want to, what's the main thing? Okay. If you talk 60, 70% going into one funnel, that's your main thing. Okay. Now that's really good. Let's call that the launch pad. You're going to launch. Okay. You can get going and you're bringing people in. You can say laser focus, perfect that, bringing them into the main thing. But even inside there, you're going to need upsells and cross sells. You're going to need downsells. What does that look like? If I have an ideal customer profile and they're starting to come in my funnel, but they all don't fit, they're at different places in their business, right? So maybe this one-on-one program doesn't work. Well, what else can I give them? Can I give them a virtual course? Can I give them a group coaching? Can I do this? Can I do that? We have to take that main thing and give it offshoots so that we can nurture those clients that would say no to the main thing for a number of reasons, having nothing to do with me, right? Could be finances, could be timing, could be all kinds of things. So we got to be able to keep them in the ecosystem. So when you think about your business, you have to think of it as an ecosystem, right? You go in the woods, there isn't just one squirrel, right? There's a lot of stuff going on in that ecosystem. There's from the ant up to the hawk, right? And the eagle. You've got all that in one system working together. That's how you have to think about building it, I think.
So, okay, I'm so happy you said that because we've never had that conversation. And that's kind of what I teach because I'm like, you can't have like 7 offers with 7 different things happening if you're just starting, or I'd say if you're in your first 2 to 3 years in. And usually your audience has different segments. So you have like a higher tier audience, then you have people who have no idea who you are. They want to test you out a little bit. So yeah, I was kind of curious to know your opinion because those are things I live by. Yeah,
it's value ladder, right? However you can look at it, they call it that too, right? You come in, there's a free offering, then there's a little more, then a little more. It's all know, like, and trust. No one knows you. They're not buying anything from you. They don't, and it's nothing personal. They don't know you, that they haven't got to like you, and they don't trust you. That's normal, right? But if you can stay focused on the one thing, get them in there, whatever that attraction looks like. And then, like I just said, with all that other stuff, you've got to have the other upsell, cross sells, and downsells. Those are really critical. Because if you don't, they're gone forever. If they can't do $3,000 a month or $5,000 a month, coach to you, they're gone forever. Because who are they going to go to? The next guy who gives them, I understand, but I got this and this and this. How would you start here? All of a sudden, they're in that ecosystem. They're in a different forest. And they're going to live in the forest. And they're going to grow in the forest. And they're going to go from ant to an eagle with that person. Right? So we have to think that way from a business. And a lot of people don't get that in the beginning. They do the one thing only. And you eliminate 95% of your potential customers.
Totally. And also, you get a lot more reps in that structure. And sometimes you have better products later on. Actually, most of the time you have better products later on because you know how to tweak them per wherever someone fits in the stack.
Well, think about what you just did with that deck you made, the motivational stuff. That's like an entry level. They get this, hey, that's really cool because you can't motivate the unmotivated. You can only motivate motivated people. So everyone who bought your thing is a motivated individual. That's why they got motivation stuff, not because they're unmotivated. They're motivated and they want more motivation. So
my lower ticket. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
So, but it's the beginning, right? So now you already know who you're dealing with. Motivated people. Well, motivated people are fun to work with. Okay, because they get stuff done and they want to do more and they want to learn more and they want to, they want to spend more and they want to. If I have a lot of energy, you know what I want? More energy. Just because I have a lot, I got twice as much as this person. I want more. So I'm an ideal client for an energy pusher, right? Because I want more. So I love what you did there. At least you made that, and it's really cool that you put that together, got it out there, and got that response, started moving this stuff, because I think that helped you in your pivot too, as you're looking at things. Because I think accomplishment is really huge, Sabrina. I think just you getting that done, now you're going to knock that book out, and we'll do it in 75 days, you and I'll probably have a harder time than you will, because mine's the second book. Well, actually be the third book now, but it's, but that's going to be hard, right? For me, but it's going to flow for you. But just the encouragement of having that book deck published, doing all that, like now you're a pro.
Well, first of all, thank you. But second of all, I think I'm a big believer. You can call it energy, however you want to call it. I believe in momentum and the power that momentum creates. You see it in everything. The true 75 Hard is all about momentum, right? It's not to do it forever, but it's to kick you off. So you lose some weight, you learn a couple of things, you're in your best self, and then you can carry that through. And most people actually who finish 75 Hard actually carry through some of the habits. It's aggressive for a reason, but that's why I believe in that, because I think, and by the way, I don't think it needs to be very like military style. You could do that with creativity. You could do that with any habit.
Right.
And I think momentum is a huge driver, especially with revenue, actually. So one of the things I always talk about is just get your first client, or just whatever new offer you're launching, just throw it out there. You need to move with the type of clients and the feedback and all that creates momentum, that creates feedback. And you're going to pivot so much faster rather than overthinking something and sitting in it.
Yep. Yeah, I was doing a startup class, a lunch and learn with them, and that I said, there's taxes, go sell what you got. That's what you need to do. Whatever you have, go see if someone who's not your friends or family will give you money for it. You won't have a better motivator than that. If someone's willing to give you their hard-earned money, you're going to be excited. You're going to make this happen.
What's funny? That's the last thing anyone wants to do, though. That's the funniest thing.
I know.
Because people are like, I need my website. I need my domain. I need all the flashy things. I need that. And I'm like, it's so funny, because your first couple of sales, it never even comes from that. It comes from you. Right.
And then they shouldn't stop at the first couple. You're going to do this for a while. You're going to prove, you're going to get out. You're going to ask, you're going to tell people. And I do this and I don't think we talked to us in the last one, but they said, well, they're afraid to talk to people and this and that. I said, well, first thing, like I just mentioned, your friends and family don't have a say in this. Okay? Don't ask their opinion if it's good or bad. Don't. Well, you can take their money if they want to loan you money, because you may need that. But other than that, they don't have an opinion, because it's all biased, good or bad. Right? That's how you test a product. You test a product with a stranger. And then the first thing, you want to make it easy, this is what I want you to say to them. Walk up to them and say, listen, I've created this thing, or I have this thing. What I'd love from you, can you poke holes in it and tell me what's wrong with it? I don't want to know what's good about it. I know what's good about it. I made it. Tell me what's bad about it. Tell me what I got to go fix. And then I'm like, so now you go expecting the negative. It's way easier. Now you're like, I expect to just get bad news. and people are going to tell me what's wrong with it, and I go fix it. So it makes it easier, but that's the momentum you're talking about. That's going to accelerate your product development or your service or whatever it is. Really important to be able to do that. And if you can shift that mindset, that's why they don't want to sell. They don't want to sell because they're going to get rejected, right? That's why they want to do all the other stuff because they think that's going to sell for them. And it just isn't.
That's true. It is. I think it is rejection based. I also think that, yeah, I mean, that's really, you just nailed it. It really is rejection based because people then try to hide behind all these little excuses and like, well, I think it needs to be perfect or this and that. And it's like, no, it's just scary because you're going out there and you're putting your stuff out there, and it's you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. I had a guy on a coaching call yesterday, and he's complaining there isn't a blog page on the website and stuff. And that really matters. I go, dude, really? No one cares about the blog page. No one's reading your stuff, man. Like, you really think highly of yourself and the stuff you're going to put on paper, just that's not going to make or break your business. And if it does, I don't know who you're selling to. Okay. I mean, go open a library. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I'm like, let's not worry about there not being a blog page. No one cares. Okay. If they're just coming to you for free information, well, that's not going to help your business either. So it's just kind of funny along those lines,
I definitely have fallen into that trap like years ago where I was like, I need this and that and this and that and like the blog page and the pictures. And it's like so funny because when you sell what you sell, people buy because of you and they buy because they need it. It's another thing too.
That's right. It's always, they call them hot button issues, right? What pain are they experiencing that you can solve? They don't care how great, how many bells and whistles. They don't care about all the cool features. They care about, do you understand my pain? Okay. And do you have a solution? And more importantly, what's the outcome after I do your solution? They don't really care about the solution, Sabrina. They care about, do you know my pain? Can you dig deep and make me hurt more? Okay. And I'm just, you know what I mean? And then you jump over the solution to the outcome. So I created this little meme. You go to the doctor and you got the pain chart with the faces, 1 to 10, and 10's all scrunched up. That's the first picture. That's their pain. You need to find that. Okay, that's their hot button issue. Then the next picture is a padlock that's locked. Okay. Then the next picture is the smiley face with the sunshine and the little rainbow and the butterflies and all that kind of stuff, right? That's the outcome. So you tell them their pain, you identify with their pain, they get it, you know it. Here's the outcome. See, this person did it, and this person, and this person, and this is what all their lives look like now because they went through my padlock, my solution, and that. And like, oh, you want the solution? That's when you pay me, right? That's what they pay for is the solution. Because if you're in the hospital in extreme pain, like you feel like your left arm's going to fall off, and they come and say, here, take this, and the pain will go away, are you going to ask them for a full breakdown of what that is? No, You're going to say, pop it in, and you want the pain to go away. Right? So we don't spend time in that solution. We have the solution. It works every time, but we got to talk to their pain and tell them what the outcome is. Those are the two things people want to know. So when you're beginning a business, I'm working with some startups right now in an accelerator. I'm telling them the same thing because they're all about their features and the things they made. Nobody cares. Okay. Yeah. It's a cooler fishing rod. Okay. But what's the benefit? How's it going to help me?
I think there's 3 levels of pain. There's give me the quick fix hospital stuff, which usually has to do with something very tactical. Like they're running ads and it's not converting, or they have a product that's selling, but they're not making any profit. Like there's always something very tactical. And then
triage.
It's usually something painful that needs to get fixed like now, like hiring or talent or something that's really like, it's like a cog in the wheel. And then there's something in the middle where it's like needs clarity. So it's painful, but it's not that painful. Like people just know that they could be doing better. Like I could be doing better, or this doesn't feel quite right. And clarity, I usually think, is purchased after many months of being frustrated. Like someone has tried things and they're like, well, I'm stumped. Like this isn't an emergency, but like I'm stumped. So usually there's clarity that I would think the middle tier is. And then I think the first one that is always the hardest thing to sell to people is unless people just have the capacity to buy that thing. And I think that's lifestyle. And so it's like, okay, this is my dream. Those are harder to sell in general. It's usually like, I mean, there's a bucket for it. It's kind of like in the construction business. Are you selling pure luxury? So just a different sales process, just very different versus like, you know, I have a roof leak and I have a tenant who's living in there and like, you know what I mean? It's just a different pain point, both of which I've
Right.
dealt with, by the way, in my previous businesses, owning construction companies and in real estate. But it's fascinating to me because I find that me in the sales process, selling to those different flavors is so different on how you treat those customers, how you sell to them, how you nurture them. Even just the process is the sales process for luxury is significantly longer than fix my roof and I'll call you in the next emergency or I'll, you know, thank you for your service. You know, and also those reviews and those things are snowball because you're solving problems left and right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's critical to understand its ideal client profile. Understand who you serve. You know, if it's luxury, stay luxury. I was on with a guy yesterday talking about that. Listen, we were talking about niches in the construction industry. Like, you don't be a kitchen and bath guy, be a kitchen guy or be a bath guy, and don't get drug into that. Oh, I could do that. I said, because if I'm a kitchen guy, I said, I'm going to become the master kitchen builder. And with that mastery comes elevated clientele. I had a client, a friend, actually, I was doing work for him with my sculpture work, kitchen guy, $900,000 kitchen put in for someone. That's a kitchen. You know, look what I told him. I said, hey, you know what you need to start doing? Because I was cooking a lot then, doing those high-end stuff. I go, you need to bring in the chef and waiters, do the first meal in that kitchen. You sell these people these phenomenal kitchens. They bring over a few guests, you sit them and you 5-course meal, wine flight, like knock it out of the park. Not only did they drop $500,000, $900,000 with you, you give them that experience at the end, like christening the kitchen that way, you're it. The kitchens will be lined up. You know what I mean? But it's thinking that way and understanding your clientele. And that's what you're saying. Really, and hey, nothing wrong with the roof repair, the home leak, the handyman guy, you know, doing that. That's a niche, right? Understand your niche, understand where you're at and then who you serve. And you can still do really well in those areas. It doesn't matter what the revenue is per se, right? It doesn't just make more revenue. Doesn't mean you can make less revenue, but you can make more money depending on the situation. It's important.
I also think where people leave a lot of money on the table, and this is a hard thing to teach. I'm going to go out of your podcast niche for a second and just go quickly into mine because it's easier for me to apply. But I work with a lot of women who are high achievers who want to learn how to scale their businesses so that they can get more time to themselves. That's essentially what it is. And the interesting thing is what has made them very successful is to be in that very masculine driven, hyper controlling role, that was me for many years. So what they want is a business that does really well, but the why they want their business to do really well is not for business reasons. It's so that they can find a dream partner or start a family. And there's always like secondary symptoms in businesses. Really interesting. In most businesses, I ran, for those listening to kind of use another example, I ran an investment fund with a construction business. I was in real estate for many years, and a lot of people invested in our fund, but it wasn't for more money. It was for passive investing so they could spend time with their families. And I think it was like 90% of our investors were Gen X men from the ages 40 to 60. And it was fascinating because the reason for that was a lifestyle play for both parties, right? The women I coach now in that. But it's interesting because for businesses that are emotionally led, this also applies, by the way, to some trades businesses, because a lot of people get, like, if you're in the home renovation space or something where people are changing things for family reasons or expanding family or doing things for whatever reason related to residential, I noticed that there's always a secondary symptom that people forget. And as entrepreneurs, we're like, well, let me diagnose the problem with what I think that person wants. But sometimes there are other symptoms for reasons as to why they're purchasing that thing. And people leave money on the table because they're not addressing those things, you know, in their marketing or in their conversations with clients. You know, sometimes it's not about the finishes of the kitchen. It's about how that makes that person feel, you know? And so there's a dance between learning the spectrum on who you're serving and the different reasons as to why they're purchasing that.
Yeah, that's so good. It really, and that's research, right? That's when you're talking to the client, you're speaking to them, and we'll stick with the kitchen thing, right? To me, that's like the heartbeat of the house. That's where everything happens, right? I wrote my book on my kitchen counter. I stood there 10 hours a day for 3 weeks and I wrote my book. And that counter means something to me. I have my kids sit on that counter on the other side, and I've had their friends over and we're having conversations. I'm teaching stuff from the Bible with them. I'm talking about life. I mean, we've spent hours at these things, and they're friends, and now they're all teenagers and up, and it's like we had all this time when they were 8 and 9 and 10 and 6, and it's like, so there's a whole experience there, right? So when I'm building the new kitchen, I understand what it was used for, what happens in this place. And if you dig into that with your clients, like, what do they actually do? Well, why do you want a breakfast nook over here? Like, what does that mean to you? When are you doing that? I mean, you have 6 kids. How are you going to sit around that? You know what I mean? Oh, it's going to be 10 by 20. Okay. You know, it's big so everyone can sit there, right? But you understand these things, like you're saying, and there's all kinds of reasons like that you're saying that you can actually profit from if you can uncover them, right?
Yeah. It's, to give those an example, again, and going back to my niche here, if I talk about dating if I talk about the pain points of dating, I can sell a business program. That's crazy for some people because I'm talking about something very painful, something really, really painful. So it's so interesting because it sells something else, even though it's not that topic. And it's the same with kitchens, right? It's like, I'm not going to upsell someone because this wood came from Marrakesh and is dipped in honeysuckle stain. Like, no one cares about that. It's like, no, this is fantastic. I know you're having twins. You can chop up any vegetable on here. It'll never get a scratch. This will be perfect for the next 20 years. So you just sold that person versus that. So it's like, it's knowing the different symptoms. And I think it's so hard when we love our products. Like me as someone who I'm like a business mentor, a consultant, a coach. Like I love knowing that I can offer the tactical stuff, but really, really what we're solving is like a huge pain point that has many different levels of symptoms.
Right. Yeah. And it's such a huge takeaway. And it's so funny just to have you on because the last week and a half, this is what I've been talking about. That, you know, just it's this, and I'm helping these startups. I'm like, where's the pain? You're not understanding your clients. You're talking about, and we're just trying to shift this, you know, to bring people in to understand that, like, you're not, I'm not going to say it's the good thing, but that's where you find out everything. When you address those issues, and the table analogy is perfect, right? It really is. I had a table for 20 years. We just replaced it. It was like 10 foot. You could go out to 10 feet, right? We homeschool our kids. Okay. So they're all like done now. So for 20 years, like that table was the schoolroom. Everything here, there's marks on there. It was a really nice table we bought before we had kids. You know, it turned into the homeschool table, right? But that thing, so the new one is this farm table, you know, it's amazing, right? But now it can be, you know, it can be a beauty. Now we can have grandkids on there or whatever, but we kind of look for more like the heirloom stuff. Like, this is an 8-foot table with this, man. I'd love my kids to have this when they start raising their kids, right? There's a whole different mindset when you start to understand that kind of stuff. So it's really walking that journey. It's way beyond the product.
You know what's fascinating?
Is just a placeholder. Yeah.
I'll tell you, and this relates to you know, your audience, but so I have a friend of mine who, I'm based here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I have a friend of mine who started a female-owned brewery with beers made for women, which, by the way, like, you would never think that would it's just random, but she loves beer. She has a brewery here. But anyway, you want to know something funny? When she was doing her market research, she realized that most women buy like 80% of the household products and things for the house. So she nailed a huge demographic because most women buy their husbands the beer for the home, and they wanted something that they could also potentially drink, but that's like a real beer, right? Like a nice IPA, like it's not taking away from like the beer. So I say this because you have a business that surrounds a lot of people who are in the trades business. And it's fascinating because, and I'm saying this cautiously because I can't confirm it, but I'm going to take a wild guess that most people who are in the renovation space, not in the property management, this is a different audience, but in the home renovation space, they're usually trying to please a wife figure in the home. Like it's for family. So it's fascinating because if you go from that lens, oh, it'll be perfect and she'll love it. And it actually like, you can actually do this, this, and that. It's like the approver is probably not making the purchase. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the buyer is just trying to make someone happy. Also, like taking account into their needs too. I'm not just saying it's just for that. What I'm saying is there is a subconscious layer in pain. And if you can get ahead of that before they can, that's when you close people like overnight. When you can address all the symptoms, be like, hey, for my crowd, yeah, your dating life sucks. You're lonely. Your business runs your whole life and you're stuck in, and it's like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm signing up for, but you're describing all my symptoms. You're probably going to have the solution. Here's my money, right? And so, like, I want to just make this a little bit spiritual because I don't want it to be too outcome focused, but I do think that like, that is when you start mixing like real purpose and solving problems and real value in a business that's run on the right principles, because you're truly solving a problem. And if you master that, you're probably doing it right and you're probably doing it fast. So it's like you start putting in the reps and then you know how to diagnose people. So when you sell them something that a lot of people hate selling, you're not really selling them. There's a paradigm shift where it's like, let me help you. You're a disaster. Yeah, you're serving. Like, let me help them. You. Yes, you're serving them. And so yes, there's there's a whole strategy side to it, but I just like to say like how you feel as an owner is like, I solved this problem. I get them. They got me. It's a different level of fulfillment in any business, whether you're in my world or you're.
I totally agree with that because I tell people, because they ask me, well, you know, kind of in depth what I do and everything, but when I'm working with these guys in the construction, in the trades, they're escaping the owner prison, right? That's my goal. They're all kind of trapped by their business, just like you're saying with your clients. They're kind of owned by it. That freedom that we're able to create when their wives message me and say, listen, Richard, it's been 8 years. I never thought this could happen. We just went 2 weeks at the beach, all 5 kids. He was never on the phone, totally present. It was the most, I never thought that was going to happen. I'm like, that's the win. Not the money, not this, but everything we created, that's what we go for. That's what we talk about. It's not about making $10 million more. You could do that, and that's usually what happens when you actually run your business correctly, right? You can make those gains, but so I'm thinking like this, Brenda, I just saved a family. Like they're going to stay together. You know how many businesses ruin families? And they're doing it for the family. They do the business for the family, but it ruins the family. The kids get estranged, right? They grow fat, they get old. They're never going to do business because they don't want to be that life and that whole thing. And I really started looking at it like, that's what I'm doing. I'm like saving families. It's kind of, I'm coaching business, but I'm like saving families. I'm giving them a complete life. It's just not all business anymore. So that's where my focus is, right? That outcome for me is that. It's not a higher revenue generating business, though that happens. Yes, they make more profit. That's all good because that's part of the freedom aspect, but that's the tool to get them to the freedom like you're doing, right? Same thing with these women. Now, are they making like lavender beers and stuff like that I was doing?
No, they're making like real, like, some amazing, she has an amazing beer line, but it's just so funny how that was like an accident that solved like a funny problem, that.
Cool. Well, it's the same thing. And when I'm dealing with my clients, a lot of times husband, wife, right? They're putting the addition out, putting the kitchen, doing all that kind of stuff, whole new house. Yeah, the husband may be paying for it. I'm air quoting paying for it, right? But it's the wife who you have to please. She's making the choices. She's picking out it. And I would do the same thing. I don't care. Like, I don't, you get into women will get into the details. Like in my kid, you get in the details. Just tell me how much it's going to be. I was talking to someone about buying a car. Like I hate buying cars. So I used to have my brother-in-law, who's a big car guy, ran dealerships for a long time. I'd fly him out. and it's his sister, right? I go find what you want, work a deal, just call me to come in and sign the papers. And they would call me because I'm not going through that. And I just went, oh, yeah, it looks really nice. Okay, I got to get back to work. I'll see you later. And I just do that because I realize, like, if she's happy and gets what she wants, that's good. So we understand that dynamic, and we see it all the time, especially in renovations and things like that. And like you said, it's really important to know who you're actually dealing with. You got the emotional and you got the logic. Logic is writing the check. The emotional is designing, building. That's going to be that's the person you have to take care of.
And you know what? Most likely using it. I bet you your wife used that kitchen table so much. You know, yeah.
She taught my kids. I just did art and PE. I didn't, she did the hard stuff.
True.
So, yeah.
It's so true. So I always like to remind people of that and let them know, like, even that, you just said, we were just joking around about making $10 million. The businesses that make $10 million have gotten to know their clients and just scaled the solution to that problem to many, many people over and over and over again. Like, that's really all that they did. Like, even my last business, we didn't really talk about it too much here, but just to give some context, that, it's close to $100 million business at this point. And I think we're at like $97 million, something around there, 95 million. And we just solved a problem externally that was lifestyle based. But the thing is that internally we learned how to scale it to a certain level. And so, we solved one problem. So, we were talking about having majority of your revenue come from one place. That's what we did. So yeah, I love this topic. I don't think it's easy to find that, but I don't think it's easy to figure it out, but I do think it's simple. It's not easy. It's just simple. Like, because it's not easy because we complicate it, but it's simple because there are really only several flavors of an issue with your audience where it's triggering enough where they cough up a check. It's really not, it's not like, someone's not going to pay for a stained table because you only have cherry and walnut. That's not the reason as to why people get stuck. It's because it's too pricey. It doesn't fit their kids' needs. If you actually perfected something to a level where you're solving a problem and more, that's when you can upsell.
Right.
Yeah.
Whenever if they say yes to something, they'll say yes to another thing. If they buy the table, well, oh, by the way, do you see the chairs? Right? This is a perfect compliment. What, you do, and you do the whole thing. But now you have them, right? You have what do they say? They don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. Right? It's that, right? It's really that they know you, they like you, and they trust you. And it's somewhat overused, but that's what it is, right?
Well, I think I like to say that the most cliche things are cliche for a reason because they're true, first of all. But I was going to make a joke and say that's when, as a man, you end up spending too much money because you pleased your wife and you're like, well, now what do I get? So then you add things onto the package for you, and then you're like $10,000 over.
That's right. Yes. I need another garage. With the epoxy floor and carpets and yes, we need all that. But and that really is what it is. I mean, that's the beauty of understanding those pain points, going deep with your clients, understanding the real issue, the real benefits they're looking for, the real outcomes they're looking for, why they want this, where it's at, and everything else, whatever that is, whether it's an online product or literally a renovation to their home, a new home, whatever that is, you've got to have you have to be able to touch those hot buttons. You have to be able to hit those. And when you do, all of a sudden, the doors are, like you said, it's rinse and repeat. Because we all think we're special. We all think we're unique. We got the one problem that no one else has, but I guarantee you do not. Okay, you're not the first person with that problem. You're not going to be the last. There's a whole market for that particular problem. And when you can dial into it, you're going to see some pretty massive success.
I'll share a story as we come closing to an end on this episode. But I have that larger business, but I also I played around with other little businesses. And this just goes to show, I always like to throw myself on the vulnerability table here because it doesn't matter how successful you are in other businesses, you throw yourself into something else. And the reason why those businesses do worse or better is because of your understanding of what we're talking about, right? So one of my very first coaching products I ever launched to help people, I was trying to sell at like a $3,000 price point and no one was buying. And my sales page was horrible. And like, I didn't know who I was talking to. I didn't know what problem I was solving. I really wasn't solving any problem, actually, to be quite honest with you. I thought I was. I thought it was special because it was like so specific and no one was buying. And it's so funny because I lowered my price enough where I got some people in the door. This was a while ago, but it's such a funny story because it's so true. And the funny thing is I got some people in the door. I finally learned what it is they were looking for, which by the way was nothing that I was advertising in the beginning. And it's so funny because I say this because it hurts, but it's true. The people who joined my program were all in other coaching programs where they had spent $3,000 to $4,000. And so what I like to say is it's you. Like, I'm just going to be real. It is you. There's something missing. There's something off. And it's not aligned with what people are looking to buy. And I remember like sitting on this coaching program after I lowered all my pricing and I'm like, what the, like, are you kidding me? Like, you were nickel and diming me for this program and you spent $3,000 to $4,000 somewhere else. And it's like, yes, because they found value subconsciously to go buy something else that made sense for them. And so I like to throw myself under the bus because I learned the lesson. It was very valuable. And it happens to people all the time where people their sales aren't what they want. They're not where they want to be. And it's like, doesn't mean you have to throw the whole product out. By the way, that my coaching program now is actually not very different than what it was. Just my messaging was different. The pain points were different. And I have a very different understanding of who I'm serving. And so I like to say, just the way that I blame myself, you gotta look in the mirror, you know?
Right. It's so important. And that's it. Like, people don't give up on your thing. Tweak the message. You're just communicating it wrong. Because you could throw that thing out and start over, and it could be the best thing ever, and there it lies in the junkyard. Because you toss up because you couldn't, I'm air quoting, sell it. Right? Totally. You got to get the message. You got to get that message. You got to spend time on it. You got to test it. You got to find out what it is, really understand your clients. That's one of the biggest takeaways, I think, of this entire conversation. I think that we kind of hit that the most here. But it's been awesome. This has been great. So much good stuff, Sabrina, as always. There's a part 3 in here somewhere. We know we can.
We'll just come back after we do our 75 hard.
Yes. Yeah, we'll see who gets done first. Yes. I'm glad I didn't reach out a couple of weeks ago. That's all I can say, because now I got my other stuff dialed in, and we're going to do it. And you're going to get I just want you to get your book done. I'm not worried about me. You like that little slide there?
Yeah, because you know what? It's so funny because I feel like universe got whatever flavor you pick has been kind of nudging me. And I'm like, it's literally sitting on a notepad, like on my table here. Like, it's hilarious. And that's the first thing that you mentioned. But by the way, this is why you have good people in your life to push you. That's right. You need pressure. They're probably like me that way too. When we put a deadline, we get stuff done. I'll get to my book. I'm going to get it done. But when you say, I got 3 weeks, I have 75 days, like, it gets done. It's just how it goes. Otherwise, you're a failure. Just kidding. Yeah. So I'll see everyone, I don't know, part 3 when we finish. That's right. When we do a book launch, we'll do a book launch right here on Sharpen the Spear. It'll be awesome. So, well, thank you so much, Sabrina, for getting there. So before we leave, how do people follow you, get in touch? You know the drill. How do they do that if they want to talk to you about coaching or whatever you got? Yeah, I like to say I'm an educator. I love teaching people about business, how to discover themselves, how to find out what really matters so that they can move their own needle. You can find me at Sabrina Guler. My website's sabrinaguler.com. If you Google my name, you'll find my Instagram, you'll find my YouTube, whatever platform of your choice. And I just ask for people to listen to my podcast, and they find me interesting. They know where to find me. There you go. Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. I appreciate all the time again. I got to learn a lot as well. Great conversation, and looking forward to doing it again and getting our books finished. We just put it out there. We're committed. So it's going to be awesome. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you on the next Sharpen the Spear podcast.